simply terrific to be with you today. You know, it's always healthy for me to be with you, to see the people who really are the citizens of this country and this state and this county, who are the ones that are just trying to live their lives and just trying to be happy and, you know, just trying to get a fair shake. And it's, you know, it's too often that people in public office and, you know, who lead organizations, they just don't see you. They just don't come out and meet with you. And I get an awful lot, you know, from meeting with you and knowing you. You know, I do a podcast, and you guys watch my podcast. It's at wethepeopleconvention.org. That's our website, and I do it every Saturday. And I'm speaking to people across the country, and I'm trying to articulate, you know, what's on your minds, what we're concerned about, and what we can do about it. And it's not easy to do that if I don't come and talk with you. If I don't hear Ann talking about the school board and what's going on. If I don't, you know, I see Brian's things about taxes. So it's really important for me to be here with you so that I can, you know, be real. I can see real America. Because you are real America. You are the real thing. I think it's a kind of interesting metaphor today, because as we were driving up, we came through a really hard rainstorm, and there's kind of storm clouds all around, you know, but there's some blue skies, you know, to the north. And I think that's really the way the world is for us right now. There's storm clouds all around. I can tell you, I mean, I can't predict if Joe Biden's going to be their nominee or not. I can't predict, you know, whether they're going to send Trump to jail or not. But I can predict this with real confidence. Next year, at this time, all of our worlds are going to change in a way that you can't even imagine. In my view, this 15-year process that we've been in the Tea Party movement is coming to an end. It's coming to an end for a lot of reasons. Some of it is we're getting older. You know, I had a close call, but how many of you guys know members of this group and other groups who passed away? You know, we're aging, and you know, our whole movement played a really, really significant role in where we are today. But that role is going to change very dramatically in the next 9 months or so. Now, that kind of has two parts to it, because it's just real simple. If we do not find a way to win this election, America's gone. There will be no getting it back. Even if it goes to the point of a civil war, the America before the Civil War was not the same country as it was after the Civil War, was it? You can't go through that and not be changed. The reality of our situation is just so hard for us, because we started, right, with the Constitution, right? All those years ago, you know, we were about follow the Constitution, the rule of law. But we are living in a country that doesn't have a Constitution and doesn't have the rule of law. That is something our founders gave us. It's something we aspire to, we believe in, but it does not exist. We're seeing that every day. We are, at best, in a soft tyranny. We are probably more socialist than we are capitalist. And that's hard for us to accept. That's very disappointing for us. And so, what's happening right now is that this isn't an election at all. Because an election, you elect people to run for office who are going to do things in Congress or in, you know, your county government or your, your state house or senate, who are going to perform the functions that they've been performing. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. Now, I've been sending things to people who are incumbent Republican congressmen and people who are challenging and may be able to win a congressional seat. I've been trying to educate them about what it is that we, the people, are going to call on them to do literally 9 months from now. I keep sending them articles about the new president of Argentina, Milei, who came in after their country was totally destroyed by socialism. Unbelievable inflation, 300% inflation, just devastating to what was a prosperous country. And he ran on a policy, he ran on a platform and said, we're going to end this. And when he got elected, he cut 30% of the government workers on day one. He got rid of federal agencies the day he was sworn in. And he's continuing to do that. And so our challenge is to help these people who are running for Congress to understand that's the kind of radical action they must take to save our nation. Because if you don't do that, the deep state, the bureaucrats, are just going to continue to do what they've been doing, which is stealing us blind and using our laws against us, not for us, and basically dominating us and trying to pound us into submission. This is exactly what you was describing about the school board, right? It's 3-2, we've got the votes, right? You will do what we tell you to do. You don't matter. My concern is, of the 218 Republican congressmen, how many of them do you think actually understand what I'm saying? You can count them maybe on one hand today.
Jim Jordan might.
So, this is my biggest fear. We're going to work our asses off to try to win this election against unbelievable odds. And with God, all things are possible. I know what you can do. I've seen you do it. They told us we couldn't elect Donald Trump in 2016 either. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. Well, we did it. We did it. So I'm never going to count us out. I'm never going to sell us short. But what I'm concerned about is that it's going to be another Charlie Brown with the football, where we do the impossible and they can't even do the minimum. Okay? Now, I've said publicly, I think I've said it on Bob Francis' show, I've said it on national shows, I've said it to other media. As weird as this sounds, I think the entire fate of our country hangs on a sentence. On a sentence. If, God willing, we are able to elect Donald Trump and to win the House and the Senate so that we have a chance to implement the Make America Great Again, America First agenda and do these hard things to restore our government. If we are able to do that, everything will hinge on Donald Trump saying these words when he is sworn in. If Donald Trump does not say these words, all bets are off. It's just not going to happen. And here's what he needs to say. When he gives his acceptance speech on January 20th next year, he needs to say, for my Republican colleagues in the House and the Senate, it must be clear to all of you that these are not normal times, and that we are going to have to vote as a block to do these hard things that must be done to save our nation. But I am telling you directly today that if you do not support the agenda that the American people voted for, I, Donald Trump, will recruit your opponent in the 2026 election. We will endorse them, and we will throw every single one of you out of office.
Yeah.
If he doesn't say that, why the hell would Dave Joyce do anything but what he's been doing? Okay? I mean, we can get all upset about Dave Joyce. I've been upset with Dave Joyce for 15 years. But I've got news for you. It's not your fault. Dave Joyce is not our fault. Dave Joyce is Donald Trump's fault. Because every 2 years, I've gone to him and said, listen, you cannot pass the legislation you need if you don't get rid of these people who are undermining you. I said, if you will just endorse whoever we find to run against Dave Joyce, we will defeat Dave Joyce. We could elect a toaster with your endorsement over Dave Joyce if you will do that. And he wouldn't. And he wouldn't do it with Mike Turner either. He wouldn't do it with any of the incumbent Republicans. Right? That's why you have people like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and you know, Mitt Romney. They were all endorsed by Donald Trump. And what did they do?
Stab him in the back.
Over and over again. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump is a unique situation in the history of this country. He is the only way that the common people can overcome the money, the buying of these political positions. We are enslaved by the money. And the worst part of it is, as you're talking about $8 million going, you know, to the school district without a vote, the worst part of it is we are enslaved by the money that they're stealing from us to enslave us. That's not in the Constitution, is it? The fact of the matter is, no one is representing you. I'll take it back. Ann is at her school district. Some of you are. But when you talk about the Ohio House and Senate, you talk about the governor's state, you know, off shoulders. You talk about our congressmen. They aren't representing we the people at all. At all. So we are in a revolution. It may not be, you know, the kind in 1776. It may not be the Civil War that we had. But this is a political revolution. MAGA, us, you, represent a complete change in the status quo from what has been going on for most of our adult lives. We are not talking about tweaks. We're not talking about one thing. We're talking about the communists who now have taken over the Democratic Party, have weaponized all of our governments, whether it's the damn school board, your city council, your state, your federal government. They have weaponized it against the people. That's total tyranny. That's total tyranny. Right, and the military, okay? And so, we're dancing on the head of a pin. We are in such danger from every direction because we're so vulnerable. We are so vulnerable. From a World War standpoint, from an economic standpoint, from a healthcare standpoint, because our betters, our elites, the elected officials have lied to us and let us down with impunity. And so I'm going to lay out for you, I think, the path forward, okay, to make the best we can out of a bad situation, okay, that will maybe give us a chance to restore our republic and have our kids and grandkids live in a country similar to what we grew up in, okay? So here's how it goes. Like it or not, and I don't like it much at all, we have to work our asses off to elect every damn Republican you can find. Look at it like World War II. First we had to defeat the Nazis, who are the Democrats, but then we had to go defeat the commies, who are the Republicans. Okay? Now that doesn't work well because I think the Democrats are commies, but it's the order of events. Okay? Unfortunately, we don't have a choice. We have an incredibly rare opportunity this year. And this is why you're seeing the push to push Joe Biden out. Why is that happening? It's not about the White House anymore, kids. It's about down ticket. The people who are screaming for Biden's got to go, they're worried about their own ass, right? They're worried about losing their state Senate seat and their House seat and the city council. They don't want to be around and affiliate with Joe Biden because he's going to cause them to lose. That's why we want Joe Biden to stay in, baby. Keep him, give him all the drugs you got to give him, okay? Do whatever you got to do. Keep that guy alive. Because that helps us.
Get the Mexican drug cards off of it.
That's right. So, the deal is that we have to make them pay. We have an opportunity in Ohio to literally destroy the Democratic Party. If we work hard, if we do everything we can do, the way this should play out is they should lose their Senate seat. Marino should beat Brown. They should lose 3 of their 5 congressional seats. Derek Barron should beat Captor in the 9th. Kevin Coughlin should beat Sykes in the 13th in Akron. And Orlando Sanza, who's a great candidate in Hamilton County, should take out the incumbent Democrat. If we do that, what that will say to you is that will carry down ticket. That will carry to state reps and House and Senate. That will carry to any kind of city council or whatever. Because you're not going to have people winning, Republicans beating those Democrats unless Republicans are voting all the way down ballot. Okay? We have a real chance for that. The astonishing thing to me is that nobody in the Republican Party appears to give a damn. They don't care. There is no Republican Party. All there are is people who run as Republicans who only care about themselves. Okay? I have been talking for months to the people in the, whether it's the Trump campaign, the Marino campaign, these congressional campaigns, and I say, listen to me. We need to create a grassroots campaign that's parallel to the Bernie Marino campaign or the Coughlin campaign or whatever. We need to have a grassroots campaign that basically says, vote for every Republican and don't vote for any Democrats. Because that's really what has to happen. And I was talking to my friend David Conti yesterday, He's our contact for the NRA. And he happened to be working in Akron this week, going door to door. I said, David, tell me, what are you seeing? They're going door to door to Republicans in the Akron area. Now, Akron's, very, 50-50 at best, right? So the Republicans are more moderate Republicans, but it's important because we need to know what they're saying. He said, Tom, let me explain to you. He said, take 10 people. I went to 10 people. 2 Republicans said, I will never vote for Donald Trump ever. Ever. Okay? And our polling, the polling that we do at the We the People Convention, I have been polling the state, and it's pretty clear to me. Donald Trump is going to win about 83% of the Republican vote. That's what's going to happen. So I said, okay, Dave, tell me about the other 8. He said, well, the other 8, one is Trump's my man. I got my Trump shirt on. I got Trump bumper stickers. Trump's my man. The other 7 Republicans are saying, I'm probably going to vote for Trump. I wish there was another choice. I don't like his personality. And believe it or not, they're saying he's a convicted felon. All right, how clueless are you if you're a Republican, you believe that, okay? And so the door-to-door people for the NRA are getting into these insane conversations with Republicans about Donald Trump's personality. When the damn country is going down the tubes. Now, I said this on my podcast today, I'm going to share it with you, because messaging is important. Your words matter. You've got to say the right things. I said, David, you gotta stop what you're doing right now. I said, you've got to change the conversation from Trump to their personal issues. I said, so here's what I want you to do. And they can do it with their texting and with their phone calls and with their doors. And you can do it too. I don't want you talking to anybody about whether they're going to vote for Trump. I want you to say to everyone, do you think the country's going in the right direction or not? The polling is showing that 73% of Americans say no. And then you say, if you want us to reverse direction, you have to vote for all Republicans, including Trump. Now you're not leading with Trump. Now you're not talking Trump. You're talking about, you don't like the direction of the country. How do I fix it? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you've got to start doing. And then when they say, well, I'm still not sure, then you can get into, well, what's your issue? Is it crime? Is it illegal immigration? Is it energy? Because we're winning on all of them. But you can't get into a conversation about Donald Trump. And the same thing is true with Joe Biden. We're not running against Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a vegetable, okay? But I got news for you. He was a vegetable in 2020. Why the hell do you think they didn't leave him out of his house? Kept him in the basement. Oh, for COVID. Oh, really? Yeah, really?
He caught COVID eventually.
Yeah, multiple times. But here's the deal. It's the issues. People are seeing it at the grocery store. People are seeing it at the gas pump. People are seeing all this damage, and they're worried, and they want a different choice. They want to go in a different direction, and that direction has to be vote for all Republicans, because just electing Donald Trump and letting Bernie Moreno lose does what? Nothing. Nothing. Okay? Now, that's got to be the plan, and the left just gave us a huge gift this week. Huge gift. When they all voted against to say that. It was a brilliant move by the Republicans in the House to say, okay, we're going to put up for a vote. We want to stop illegals and non-citizens from voting in federal elections. Who's for it? And 98 Democrats said, no, I'm not.
They're gonna put it on the CR in September.
And we are going to put it in everything we do. If there's a Democrat in your district at any level, you need to start messaging they want to cancel your vote. The Democratic Party is against America. And if you vote with them, you are against America. Here's their vote. Go to wethepeopleconvention.org. Click on the article. I've got a link to all 198 of them. You can click on that link, and I've actually got their Twitter handles for all of them. And you can go on Twitter and write to them and say, you're a disgrace because you swore an oath to the Constitution, and the Constitution says only U.S. citizens can vote, and therefore you should be voted out of office. And everyone in your district should know that. I gave you that tool on our website today. Okay? God willing, this is going to give us what we want. Now, like Steve Bannon was saying before they shut him up, put him in prison, he was saying, we can win 50 Senate seats. We can win 40 House seats because they're screwing it up so bad. And this infighting with them is helping us. Okay? But what happens then? What happens then? When we all started 15 years ago, it's hard to remember this, but there was a Democrat governor and a Democrat Secretary of State. And there was the House was, I think, controlled by the Democrats, the Senate might have been Republican. When we came along, we were a purple state, right? Remember that? We were purple. Yeah. And we came along and pretty well changed that, didn't we? Right? You can't elect any more damn Republicans. But what do we get for that? We didn't get a damn thing. We've elected these people year in, year out, starting with Kasich, Portman. Keep going, man.
John Bonehead.
We've elected all of them, and we have been betrayed. The one lesson we learned, and Jack Boyle and I talked a lot of politics, and when this was going on, and we elected Kasich and those guys, when we finally turned the state red, and they had these super majorities, they suddenly realized, we don't need you guys anymore. We needed you to take the majority, but now we have the majority. So what if you get pissed off and you leave? We've got a majority. We can have 34 of these House members vote with the Democrats because there's nothing you can do about it. Okay? So my concern is that we're going to work like hell to save our country, and we're going to do the impossible, and we're going to take the House and the Senate and the White House, and we're going to fight through the riots and whatever comes our way, and then they're not going to do what they said they were going to do. They're not going to do it. Because I don't know if they know how to fight. I don't know if they know that you're in for Trump 2.0. Go back and think of what Trump 1.0 looked like. Think the deep state screwed with them then? What do you think they're going to do this time? We had the pleasure, at least I consider the pleasure, a couple of weeks ago, of having General Mike Flynn come to Kent for an event. And I had not seen him in a long time. And man was with me, and I saw him, and he said, "You caused me a lot of trouble." And I said, "Well, you caused me a lot of trouble too, brother." But I said, but we were right. And if Donald Trump had done what Mike Flynn and Tom Zawistoski had told him to do in 2020, we wouldn't be here. And what we told them to do, for those of you who are unaware of that history, the We the People Convention paid for a full-page ad in the Washington Times after the 2020 election, making the case for Donald Trump to declare temporary limited martial law to force a revote of the federal election using paper ballots and photo IDs. And it went all the way to the top. On Christmas Eve of 2020, Mike Flynn and Sidney Powell are sitting in the White House with Trump and with Rudy Giuliani and some of the legal people, and they were trying to decide, do we do the martial law thing or do we fight in the courts? And Mike Flynn fought for this because I gotta tell you, most people will say I am insane, but I'm not totally insane, okay? But I don't just flippantly write an ad that says declare martial law, Mr. President, okay? I can tell you flat out, I had no idea that I was gonna do that. I had no idea. The election had been stolen. I'm trying to find a way to fight, and God came into my head and put this bizarre idea into my head. And so, okay, Noah, build me an ark. Ooh, I don't build arks, well, okay, right? But I'll tell you this, I didn't publish the ad until Mike Flynn told me that if Trump ordered it, that the military would do it.
The military would have done it?
They would have done it. Because right before the election, they had just swapped out like the head of the armed forces, one of the top people,
Command.
right, that became, okay, a Trump guy. And so Mike said to me, 2 months ago, this couldn't have happened, but it can this time, okay? And Donald Trump didn't do it. And they said, and of course, I was a real popular guy after that, right? Imagine the left had a good time. We had 1 million voters to our web. We had 1 million people come to our We the People Convention website in one day. In one day. The media was going insane. Okay, it's crazy radicals, martial law, blah, blah, blah. But I did a smart thing. If you read the ad, you will see that I used Abraham Lincoln as an example. This is what Abraham Lincoln did during the Civil War to save the Union. He suspended habeas corpus. He arrested the governor of Ohio, okay? He arrested newspaper editors, right? And I used that as a metaphor to say, President Trump, you must do this to save the Union and prevent civil war, okay? And they said, oh, that's insane. Yeah, it's really insane. Now, what did the left do like 3 weeks after that? What do you think January 6th was?
Basically, it was martial law.
It was martial law. What do you think all those troops were? The fences, all that stuff. Oh, but you can't do that. Now, Donald Trump, you can't do that. Oh, but when they did it, they're defending democracy. Right? Okay? I'm sharing this with you so you understand what we have to do. It's not going to be subtle. You think cutting 30% of the federal workforce, they're just going to go, oh, okay. Right? You're going to be fighting everyone. But you can't stop. You can't waver. You can't, you have to understand what's at stake. And I don't know that Donald Trump does. I don't know that he understands who he's really fighting. Because what he's really fighting is global communism. He's not fighting the Democrats. He's not fighting the deep state. He's fighting global communism. And our goal, just like in World War I and World War II and the Cold War, is to defeat them. Which means, like what Israel's doing to Hamas, wipe them off the face of the earth. You do not deserve to live. for what you did. The only way to fix it is to end it. That's where we are. That's where we are. Okay? And so, I think that we can do this. I think that we can elect these people. I think that through God, He can move men's souls. He can rise up. He can raise up leaders. Okay? I believe that. Read your Bible. It's like He does it all the time. Okay? Our only hope is to trust in God's plan. To pray for His mercy. Because, boy, we need it. Because if I was God, I'd wipe us off the face of the damn earth. Because we made Sodom and Gomorrah look like a carnival show. Okay? We are evil. We are a mess. And so we're praying for God's mercy and for God's guidance. But it is incumbent upon us, if we believe in God, to understand the point in time, and that our duty is to do God's will to the best of our ability. Not to make excuses, not to just say, oh, I can't do anything. Read the Bible. That's not the way it works. Okay? And then we might have a chance. We won't have victory. I wish I could tell you we'd have victory. We'd have a chance. Because here's the next part. You can't fix this mess in 4 years. That's why this vice president choice is so important. Okay? Because you're not just picking somebody because they're rich, or because they're good looking, or they run TV, or whatever the hell other thing you do. Or female, or whatever, a black, or whatever, a DEI hire. That's the last damn thing we need. We need somebody who's going to pick up the mantle, who's going to then understand that we need to win in 2008 and 2012, and we need to use legislation to redo our government. Okay? And I'm really concerned about Donald Trump's VP choice. I see our Matt Lynch sign over there, my good friend Matt Lynch, and I was talking with him, and he scared the daylights out of me the other day, because we're talking about, oh, J.D. Vance, let's make him the vice president, right? A guy who came from nowhere, who was running fourth in our, Senate race, and only won because Trump endorses him 10 days before the election. Let's make him vice president now. And I said, geez, Matt, I'm really hoping that doesn't happen, because the wine's going to appoint Matt Dolan, And Matt, ever the great political mind that he is, said, oh no, the wine's not going to appoint Matt Dolan. He's going to appoint himself. He's going to appoint himself to the Senate so that Houston can be governor and run as an incumbent. You like that? We having fun now? Yeah? We're having a good time, huh? Yeah, I'm bringing all kinds of good news, huh? That could happen. That could happen. Okay? All right. So now I said to you, this time next year, we're going to be in a different place. And now I'm going to explain to you what I think that is. Okay? Because once we do this, and if we can do it, if God wishes it, and we can do this, we'll have a chance, but it won't be in our hands. Right? Because the elections will be all over, right? Yeah, you can call Dave Joyce all you want. What's he going to do? Yeah, not even listen to you. Right? So once we do what we do, it's on its own. And Trump's either going to state that sentence that I said he has to speak, or that paragraph, or he's not. If he does, boy, Dave Joyce's votes will change like that. Funny how that is. He's such a spineless weasel. Okay? Change like that. Because he'd be threatened for once. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave us? And I feel pretty confident about this. I've thought about this a lot. I thought, you know, when you're laying in the hospital, you know, you're nearly died, you think about a lot of things a lot, okay? Life gets real serious. So here's what I want to share with you and see, hopefully, if you will, buy into this idea and think about it. When I think about the Tea Party movement, when we started, it was all local. We were our county people. We were working in our county, and I wasn't doing anything for state candidates or federal candidates. I mean, again, remember, we started in 2008, 2009, right? We're fighting against Obamacare. We're trying to talk, you know, Brian, about debt and deficit, right? We're doing the things to try to educate citizens. We're putting on Liberty Camp for Kids to teach kids about the Constitution. We're holding meetings like this, and we weren't talking about who we're going to elect. We're talking about property taxes. We're talking about fracking. We're talking about, you know, the school board race. We're talking about our lives. And we got away from that. We got sucked into the vortex because when we started out, we thought, oh, geez, you know, all we got to do is elect the right guy to president and everything will be fine because, you know, the rest of it's all great. Oh, man. Couldn't be any more wrong than that. The reality was nothing was all great. Everything was corrupt. There was no there. And so we went on a quest for something that was impossible to achieve. Because we achieved it and we still didn't get it. Right? I mean, in Ohio, my God, the biggest supermajorities ever. 66 out of 99 House members are Republicans. 21 out of 27 senators are Republicans. All the state office holders. And we can't get anything done. So, what I'm going to do this time next year is I'm going to completely reject the Republican Party. I'm never going to do a thing again for them ever again. Ever. Any political party, Democrats, that is not the answer. I'm going to advise you guys to go super, super local, and the only people you will support must run as an independent. You will not give them money, you will not give them your effort, you will not do their lit, you will not do their signs, unless they are answerable to you. To you. Because what we've learned, what have we learned in 15 years? If they're not answerable to us, what's the point of electing them? Right? Don't even bother. Forget it. Don't do anything. And the focus becomes school board, township trustee, county commissioners, city council, mayors, local. Because here's the bottom line. Here's the truth. The best way to hurt the money people and the parties is to deny them candidates to run for higher office. If you start electing everybody who's an independent, who are they going to run for state senate? Who are they going to run for House? Because when they come to the person, when they come to Mike and say, Mike, hey, we'd like to run for the House, you say, well, I'm sorry, I can't run as a Republican because these independents elected me. I'll run for the House and I'll beat your guy's ass because I got these people and you got nothing but money. Okay? Does it make sense?
Yes.
I think we've got to go super hyper local. We've got to defend our turf. Now again, people say, but Tom, you know, the federal government, they can take our guns, they can lock us up, they can do all that stuff. Well, you know what? Yeah, kind of no. Okay? I mean, Brian's been studying these numbers and stuff like that. I've been looking at this. Where's all the money spent? Spent at the local level, right? The feds send money to the state sends money to your county, and your county spends it. Well, if we're running all those positions, who's spending the money? We are, right? So now you're going to steal my money, but when you send it back, what you didn't keep of it, we're going to get it back. Because we're going to have policies that are for us, that make our community better, that make our children's lives better, okay? And we're going to fight you on our turf where you don't want to fight. You don't want to fight us on our turf. And I think if we do that, we will then have the Second American Revolution. We will change how government doesn't work, right? We will change it. We will make them responsible to the people because they're not now. And if we don't do that, I don't see any other option. Okay? Now, that's not the greatest plan in the history of the world, but it's a plan, and based on my experience with you and your experience, I have no doubt that we could be really, really powerful at the local level if you just turn away, turn off Fox, turn off all the garbage, all the nonsense, stop reading all this crap, and reading Brian Massey's newsletter, watching his podcast, listen to George Casari and the radio show, being part of what Tom Hack is doing, right? Do all that. They won't be able to compete because they can't do it on that many fronts. So that's my message of hope for you, okay, as much as it is, all right? And I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have, not necessarily about that, about anything else, whatever your fears and things are. I'm here to share with you what I know. So, yeah, Brian?
Yeah, Leonard and I are extremely concerned about public education. We're thinking about coming up with questions how to vet these candidates, such as what is really the role of government? Should the government really be involved in public education? What we're seeing, and we're told in Lake County anyway, that there is a movement in the homeschoolers. So the only way to defeat the public education, either starve them of money or starve them of students. Mm-hmm. What's your opinion on what's happening, and is there it's not a quick fix, I understand that in public education, but do you have any thoughts on what we should be doing in public education?
I think, if you know the term creative destruction, okay, this is a term that Berkshire Hathaway uses about when they buy businesses and things like that. It's what you basically do is you may be the leader in making carpeting, but you need to destroy your own product by becoming your worst nightmare competitor before somebody else comes along and destroys your product. I think we just need to reimagine, quote unquote, public education, okay? In other words, they've stolen the concept, and remember, it actually originated here in Ohio. If you go back in history, do you know that? Mm-hmm. Oh, go read the history book. There's a great book about Ohio that every one of you guys should read called Passages, and it's amazing. Ohio is amazing. America was formed by Ohio because Ohio was the first state after the Revolutionary War. It was the first state to do the Constitution. And Ohio was the first state to say, we're going to have mandatory education and we're going to tax people to pay for it. Mm-hmm. It's that deep in our history. But that doesn't mean you got to run the school and run everything. We're in a new age with AI that, I got news for you. In 5 years, your AI app will teach a kid 1,000 times better than any school or teacher can. So the role of government will be to fund that. The role of government is that all your kids will be able to get the education they need, but it ain't going to be in a brick building having your time wasted all day paying union teachers to not teach. So we need to be getting ahead of this and not fight the battle that's raging now, but fight the battle for the future. I think we need to reimagine education. That's a huge revolution.
Karl Marx said that if we destroy the family, babies, and morality, a society will collapse.
Yes.
And I certainly see that as happening.
We're on the brink.
Now, again, how do we put the family together? We've got churches that are no longer really being influential, and they're part of the problem.
Yeah.
So we're fighting on a lot of fronts.
Yes.
Not just on public education.
Sure.
But we're talking about how do we put the family together?
Well, I think it starts with the family. right? We keep looking for outside institutions to save us. This is the problem. And Ann said something about the school district, it becomes a parent's, thing, okay? I mean, Gary, you've homeschooled your kids and things like that. It's real simple. To restore the family, we have to work harder at our families. As individuals, as grandparents, as parents, as aunts and uncles. We need to start talking to people in our family about how important family is and community is. And in that conversation, you can talk about things like the Bible and the lessons in the Bible. The decision by the head of education in Oklahoma to say you're going to teach the Bible in Oklahoma schools, they're losing their minds, but it's a totally valid point because this country was founded on the biblical principles. So if you're not teaching those, how the hell are you going to know what the country's about? So he's making the right case. We're not teaching religion, we're teaching moral history, right? So again, it's how you do it. All right, so that would be my answer to that. Yes?
Quick comment and then a question. Everybody, the problem in Congress, everybody loves their own congressman. That's why the bad people get voted back in.
Yeah.
Same thing with the church. Everybody loves their church. There's a great church across the street. I'm just going to tell you right now, there's a great church across the street. You're going to get the truth. And it's constitutionally liberty-minded. My question was, when you mentioned about going independent after this cycle, I'm assuming that means that Trump doesn't make the statement and the Republicans don't get their house in order and do the right thing. If they do, I would assume we would stick with them because they're in the right direction.
And that's a good point, yes.
Okay.
I think the answer to that is yes, with a caveat, right? Because if Trump puts the sword of Damocles over their heads, then you can't remove it. You gotta keep it on them because the Dave Joyces of the world, they're sleazeballs, okay? They won't understand anything but force. So my point then would be to Donald Trump, hey, you're going to be president for 4 years. What are you going to do after that? How about helping us build a real conservative movement that is parallel to the progressive movement?
So if we see signs that it's not changing, then yeah,
it's,
I've already in my
it's every man for ourselves, and it's our community, and the country's got to take care of itself.
2 years ago, I decided I was going independent, never going Republican.
Yeah. Yeah,
2 years ago.
and you were probably right.
If they make the change, though, then I'll reconsider.
Pray a lot, Mike.
Yeah, Tom, I agree with you. I believe we are at an inflection point where it is more dangerous than I know how to convey to other people. I think we are at a point where civilization itself is on that question.
On life support.
And I think looking at France is an example of how far they're willing to go to preserve their degenerate power. Macron is basically turned France into a communist country.
Without doubt.
Where do you see this going? Because I think we're looking at that here. I know the elections are rigged. I know it's going to be tough. But I actually think people are finally pulling their heads out of their back end and are beginning to see things. How far are they going to go? What do you see?
Okay.
How bad?
So I agree with you. You would not see the movement of black voters, of Hispanics, how about young people, overwhelmingly moving towards Trump? Because guess what they don't do? They don't watch Fox News. They don't watch these conservative things. They don't watch the mainstream news. They get their news from Twitter and from, who knows, TikTok, okay? But they know they can't afford gas in their car. They know they can't buy a house. They can't barely afford to rent. That wouldn't be happening, okay, unless there's a real movement, like you say, for people to wake up. Now, is that enough to overcome the cheating? That's an interesting question, okay? I hope so. We would certainly want that. But I have to point out to you something that I mentioned in a podcast a couple weeks ago, because it just struck me, because you brought up France and the Netherlands and all kinds of other countries. All over the world, they're fighting for freedom. The farmers in the Netherlands blocked all the highways, dumped manure on the steps of the parliament. You know, in France, they're having riots. In Germany, they're having riots. People are saying, no, no, you can't do this to me.
There will be a civil war this year. It will.
Where's the only country that that's not happening?
Yeah.
It's not happening here. We're the Second Amendment, we've got our guns, we've got all this. Yeah, except we won't fight. We won't fight. Well, because of January 6th, psychological warfare and all the other nonsense, right? But we're going to have to find the people who will fight. Because if we don't find those people, we will not be free. We will not be free. George?
Tom, I took this information from one of your podcasts. The article is The Ghettoization of America. And just to give a little history, my group and I, we were called the American Protectionist Society back in the day. We had come up with the same numbers in that article and gave it to Pat Buchanan in 1996 and 2000.
Wow.
He was the Donald Trump of that era.
Yeah.
I sent that article out, and I think this needs to be a linchpin. And if you look at the headline, it was erroneously written that the deep state has basically stolen $50 trillion from the American middle class. That number is actually $153 trillion since 1973. And it has to do a RAND study based upon Federal Reserve statistics. And it's actually the same number that our group used back then. Why the Sam hell isn't Trump using this saying, the middle class has been ripped off to $153 trillion from banksters, gangsters, China, deep state.
Everybody.
And I sent, and I can't tell you how many hundreds I've sent this up. You know what the response from most of the people is?
What?
Nothing.
They're not upset. That's okay.
I don't know if they're reading it, not understanding it, not comprehending it, but Bernie Marino needs to get off his butt and highlight something like that. $153 trillion.
It's insane. It's insane numbers. It's insane numbers. I think that was the article that basically said that if they hadn't done what they did by outsourcing our stuff to China and things, that every family would have made like $22,000 a year more for like 30 years. Every person. They stole our future, okay? And this was the Bushes and all of them where, let's outsource this, it'll be good, we can outsource these jobs and we'll retrain you for something that we don't really know what that is.
What happens if we get invaded? How are we going to defend that? We could have done the factories of producing.
Well, there you go. So that's the problem. No one has been representing us for most of our lifetimes. Most of our lifetimes. We have had no one fighting for us. Now, Donald Trump, you have to say, he said it when he ran in 2016, he meant it. The tax cut that they passed helped us. Helped the middle class, bigly, to quote Trump, okay? And so the bottom line is, that's why we were doing so good in 18 and 19, before COVID. But what did they do? They destroyed them for doing that. So this is not for the faint of heart. This is for champions. This is for heroes. This is for people who will say, this will not pass. This is for people who say, you stole the frickin' election and we're not going to let you. Okay?
The true 1%. That's all you're going to need on the local level.
Yes, for sure. And they're a small percentage. They're a small percentage. It's way blown out of proportion. Okay? So, we just need to live in reality. And our reality is that we're on our own, pretty much, and these people who are promising us things, unless you have leverage, right, to say, if you don't, this will happen, you got nothing. You got nothing.
All right, so the 2020 elections fraud was never straightened out. I don't see this election this November being any better because of that.
Mm-hmm.
What are your comments on that?
Okay, so the key thing you got to do is you got to, just like polling, they give you all these polls. Oh, Trump's leading Biden by 3%. Those are national polls. It's not a national election. Throw them out. Pay no attention. It means nothing. You have to look at statewide polls. And the statewide poll says Trump's killing them. Okay? So the same is true with the voter issue. You can say 2020 was terrible and what's going to be different. What's different is what just happened in Georgia. Georgia has completely revamped their laws, and they just passed an election rule that says that every precinct is going to have to hand count all the ballots every day and match them with what the machines say, so that the number of votes and the number of voters equals in every precinct in Georgia. Donald Trump just won Georgia. Okay, he just won Georgia in a landslide. Okay, so in the meantime, you got Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, who just signed 15 laws that basically says it's illegal to challenge an election. You can't do it. It's illegal for you to challenge an election. Okay? It's insane. Now, we got to go to court and fight that. In Arizona, they've made huge gains in the election issue there. It is not like 2020. It ain't the way it should be, but the Republicans are the ones doing it, not the Democrats.
How about Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania's made some strides. They're definitely not going to be the same in Pennsylvania as it was. So it's local. Okay, it's local. I did a thing in my podcast about Claiborne from South Carolina, right? That he was just in Wisconsin. Oh, the hell's a congressman from South Carolina doing in Wisconsin? Oh, he was visiting the AMC churches that are black churches that are Baptist or something, that basically have these churches in every key precinct in the country. And what they do as a church is they do voter fraud. They do ballot harvesting. And Claiborne was visiting them to make sure we were all set. Okay? And right after he left, the next day, in fact, they were sending out emails to people saying, you know, if you haven't registered to vote, here, click here, and it'll send you the forms to register to vote. Because they're going to ballot harvest all that. So that's the fight we're fighting. Now, again, Donald Trump and Greg Parscales and his team didn't listen. I know this firsthand. Catherine Engelbrecht from True the Bold told this to me personally, and so did Jay Sekulow from the ACLJ. They told Trump in 2020, you need more lawyers because they're going to steal the election. They told him 3 times. He didn't do it because Brad Parscales was saying, there's no way they can cheat, we're going to win in a landslide. Okay? Error. Our error. We screwed it up. Okay? Not us. We did our job. We turned out the vote. We won that election. They screwed it up. This time, RNC, Laura Trump's there. They've hired 100,000 lawyers or whatever to be in all these areas. There's lawsuits underway. What I'm saying in a long form way is, it is not the same as 2020, but they are going to still cheat, and we're going to have to fight like heck. Okay? But I do think because of all the people moving over, my God, I think Trump's going to win New Jersey. I think he might win New York. He might win New York.
He might win New Mexico and Minnesota, too.
And a bunch of other states. The latest internal polling by the Democrats showed Trump getting 328 electoral college votes. 328. It's a landslide. It's literally a wipeout.
I think he'd go to 400 if he doesn't.
Well, but that's the point. We got to make that happen. It's going to be a fight. We're at war. They sure as heck ain't going to give up power for nothing.
He might win Virginia, too.
He should win Virginia. We'll see if he picks Youngkin as vice president. Yes,
good choice. I hope.
A patriotic CIA agent went to a prayer meeting in Rochester, New York, and said terrible things will happen around election time.
There will. Listen, I guarantee you that there will be riots if Trump wins.
Oh, yes.
I guarantee you. And there will be riots from Election Day to Inauguration Day. Now, here's the question. What is Dave Yost going to do? Okay? Because they're going to have riots like they did with Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Go to downtown Columbus, folks. It's a disgrace. It's a disaster. That used to be a beautiful downtown. It's a mess. Did they ever prosecute any of those people? No. Did they ever prosecute the people who donated to them? Nope. Downtown Cleveland hasn't recovered. So the question is, okay, let the dumbasses burn down their own cities. Let them burn down Los Angeles and New York. Have at it. You come into a red state, you're going to prison. I'll call out the National Guard. I'll do whatever I got to do. but you're not gonna steal our election through violence. That's the answer. Do we have people with the fortitude to do
The
that?
only way to do that is to spray bullets out and start doing that.
Well, we'll
I hate
see.
to say that, but
I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I'm going to go back to the education piece. From its inception, public education has always been a communist idea,
Big time,
and we bought into it.
without doubt.
So, when I look at the educational system as it exists today, I came out as a trained communist, didn't even know it.
Yeah.
So they did a very good job.
Yep.
But what's bothering me is that we keep trying to reform a system that's communistic in design. And
You can't do it.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So to me,
You have to destroy it.
Right.
You have to replace it. You have to wipe it out. You cannot fix public education. You just can't.
and where I'm going with this is that we're funding our own demise by thinking we can do it.
Without doubt.
And then secondly, when we start talking about God's word, it's very clear in His word who's responsible for the education of our children.
Oh, yes.
And we are.
That's
Okay?
right, parents.
So now, if you break that commandment, there's going to be consequences for it.
Yes,
I
it
just
is.
don't think we understand that.
And that's why we're having the consequences,
Yes.
right?
And then secondly, another aspect of it is that this is downright theft. No one talked to us. Taking money from me without my consent to educate someone else's child is theft. They're stealing.
Right?
No one goes to that level of discussion because
Right.
we don't want to talk about it.
That's right.
They say, look, you're getting personal. It's just like when we vet a candidate. I don't even know if we know how to vet a candidate.
No, I can't agree with that.
I ask a question and they say, oh, then you're too far right because you want to know too much about him personally.
Right?
Well, I would hope you want to know about me personally.
Yeah, yeah.
And know
yeah.
who I am.
Yeah, but I think it goes back to what I said to Brian. We need to use creative destruction. Our goal is to end public education as it exists.
Amen.
No buildings, no teachers, no
Amen.
unions. The money is
That's what I'm
fine, but
talking
it goes to the family to educate them. And then that money, if you're gonna homeschool or private school, you can use that money in the church. The church can have schools again that are teaching the Bible and teaching, the values of our founding fathers, okay? But that's the fight we gotta fight. This idea of we're gonna reform the public schools, no, not at all. We need to wipe them out. And the answer, I think is gonna happen, is we're gonna be able to use AI as an excuse. We're gonna be able to use AI as something that is like a Trojan horse. We really don't just wipe them out, but we're gonna say, oh, this AI is the greatest thing. We need to get all our kids to an end. Geez, you don't really need all these classrooms, and you sure don't need these teachers because the AI is the teacher. So, let's just take those tax dollars that we're spending for these buildings and all these teachers and superintendents and vice principals and all those clowns, okay? And let's just give it back to the kids and the community and the families. And they'll go along with that because they're stupid. Okay? And we can convince them of that. So that's what I'm hoping is going to happen. I think that's our opportunity. That's historic, right? It couldn't happen any other time but now. So I hope so. Yes?
You mentioned Argentina. And so one of my concerns is that when conservatives talk about cuts, and I'm all for cuts.
Yeah, they're not real cuts.
Shrinking the size of government,
Yeah.
making it much smaller,
Yeah.
I'm all for that. But my concern with that is that, if you look at other countries, in the name of shrinking the size of government, what's really going on is the austerity is really being used to pay bonds, bond holders,
Right.
okay? As opposed to really restoring the country, taking the revenue that we do have and taking care of the people.
Right.
When we say bondholders in the United States right now, who we're really talking about is Citibank, JP Morgan,
Oh, yeah.
Chase.
Oh,
It's the
BlackRock, all those guys.
It's the same too big to fail banks that the Tea Party started it. It's battle with.
Right at the beginning. So, but that's why Trump might be uniquely qualified, right? Because he knows those guys, like the back of his hand, right? And he knows that that's going on. Now, can we motivate him to do that, though, is the question.
I'm getting mixed signals, so I wanted people to know that. Right now, the Fed is buying all the bonds. It's issuing bonds with one hand and buying them back with the other.
Yeah.
All right? It's all a con game, and they create the money out of thin air.
It's like a Ponzi scheme.
They create the money out of thin air, which means that it's not like, we usually think of money and we think of it as going from depositors and people who earn the money by the sweat of their brow.
Right.
and then transferring it to, to an individual
To pay
who wants
for
to
something to
borrow.
buy, yeah,
Right, to
right.
borrow. That is what's going
No,
on.
it's
It's
not.
like more like a magic wand, King Midas, waving his wand, and then they're just creating it. But then they hold you in a state of slavery that you're referring to, and expect you to pay both the principal and the interest. And they do it through austerity. So now you get where I'm coming with. I don't think this is really internalized from most conservative public policymakers at all.
they don't.
Because that's what they're gonna do is sell conservatives on the austerity, but then we're really making bondholders whole, we're really making JP Morgan Chase.
That's right.
These too big to fail banks.
So we've got, again, why do you think they're looking at central bank digital currency?
Sure.
Okay?
Further-
Again, if that happens, folks, it's over. There's no freedom. There can be no freedom. If the government is taking care of all your money, they know everything you spend for everything you do, you're done. You're China. You're communist China, okay? That's the scale of the fight we're in.
So we have to be
Okay.
savvy enough to understand that that's a middleman, that the Treasury can and was the principal creator of our money supply,
Right.
not a private entity.
Right.
They're middlemen is all they are. They're not totally unnecessary.
Right.
And right now, because I have a friend who's well connected at a major bank, I can tell you that the system's being set up so that only 5 banks will exist after all the rest of them fail.
That's right. Their goal is to get rid of all the rest of them. They're intentionally getting rid of all of them.
And those 5, you only need 1 really, but they're doing 5 for appearance.
Right. Yeah. Do you guys know that according to the Constitution, you're allowed, the state of Ohio, every state is allowed to start their own banks? You can start your own bank. And if you can, and it has all the rights of any other bank, and if we have our own banks, we could, fight against central bank digital currency. And so we've been trying to talk to legislatures, like you say. They have no clue what you're talking about, but we're trying to bring them along. My point is that, all of you are seeing, these threats are real. They're all around us, like the clouds around us. But there is some blue sky if we just kind of focus, okay? So I want to wrap it up. I think, I answered your questions. I'll stay and meet with you individually afterwards. But I really hope that what I had to say gave you some clarity as to our current situation, what could and may not happen, and what we do after that happens. That was my goal. Did I achieve that with you? Did you think I gave you that information? That was my goal. Okay? Yes. I brought some cards.